This is Matt.
This is Seth.
Welcome to
The Unbroken Net.
This is a podcast where we're going to share with you some ridiculous ideas.
Yeah, and who cares if you believe what we believe? Just think for yourself.
That's all we're asking.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of The Unbroken Net. Today we're going to start a new series. It's going to be in John, the Gospel of John. And we're actually going to do something a little different today. We're going to actually read in the Message. Matt, can you start us off with that?
Yeah, so it'll be the first 19 verses, or 18 verses, first section. The Word was first. The Word present to God. God present to the Word. The Word was God. In readiness for God from day one. Everything was created through him. Nothing, not one thing, came into being without him. What came into existence was life. In the life was the light to live by. The life blazed out of the darkness. The darkness could not put it out. There was once a man, his name John, sent by God to point out the way to the life light. He came to show everyone where to look, who to believe in. John was not himself the light. He was there to show the way to the light. The life light was the real thing. Every person entering life he brings into light. He was in the world. The world was there through him. And yet the world didn't even notice. He came to his own people, but they didn't want him. But whoever did want him, who believed he was who he claimed and would do what he said, he made to be their true selves, their child of God's selves. These are the God begotten, not blood begotten, not flesh begotten, not sex begotten. The Word became flesh and moved into the neighborhood. We saw the glory with our own eyes, the one-of-a-kind glory, like Father, like Son, glorious inside and out, true from start to finish. John pointed him out and called, "This is the one I told you was coming after me, but in fact was ahead of me. He has always been ahead of me. He has always had the first word. We live off his generous bounty, gift after gift after gift. We got the basics from Moses, and then this exuberant giving and receiving, this endless knowing and understanding. All this came through Jesus, the Messiah. No one has ever seen God, not so much as a glimpse. This one-of-a-kind God expression, who exists at the very heart of the Father, has made him plain as day."
So this makes, I think in some ways makes the Bible more accessible.
Yeah.
Just the kind of, it is going through the lens of, remind me who?
Eugene Peterson.
Peterson, yeah. So it goes through his lens. He wrote this for his children. Yeah. So it is, it's easier to read, easier to to absorb some of this.
And I feel like it gives you a glimpse into Eugene Peterson's worldview.
Yeah.
Which helps me get a glimpse into my own even more.
Yeah, it's in the... So he starts off with the Word was first, the Word present to God, God present to the Word. The Word was God, in readiness for God from day one.
So you have these two characters, right? You have the Word and you have God. And before anything was, the Word was first. So you have God and the Word dwelling together, whatever this Word is, that we'll later find out is Jesus.
Right.
Before Jesus was in a body, he existed as the Word that was with God and was ready for God at every moment.
I mean, it's also the Word was God.
Yeah. And so it's it's two in the same,
Right.
but different expressions of who God is.
Mm.
It shows the relational aspect of God.
Right. And it seems that our whole world was created through the Word.
Mm-hmm.
This whole, without the Word, nothing would have been made.
That was correct. Because it was all spoken, remember?
Yeah.
And God spoke. That's a word. And the word, which I would suggest to you is like that spirit aspect of who God is, made all of this.
Right. And he says what came into existence was life.
Mm-hmm.
And the life was light to live by.
So everything that has been made is there to provide light for people to live by.
Mm.
All of this is here for us.
Right.
And it's here to guide and direct us towards our Creator.
Yeah. And it blazes out the darkness.
Yeah. And that's what light does. Yeah. There's a lot of darkness in this world, but when you know this light, this life light that John is talking about, when you know this Jesus, this spirit that dwells in you and is in you and with you and through you, that has made you and holds you, this is what John was here to tell us about.
Right. So then, I mean, the darkness can't...
John the Baptist, not John the author.
Right, yeah. It does get a little confusing because
Mm-hmm.
we're reading John, but then John starts off by talking about John the Baptist. So he says the darkness can't put out the light, but the light can blaze out the darkness, which, I mean, that obviously makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, darkness is just the absence.
Of light.
Yeah. So now he starts talking about John, and John sent by God to point out the way to the life light. And it's interesting. He starts referring to the Word, to Jesus, as life light.
Yeah, I think it points back to the character and nature of who Jesus is before Jesus is Jesus. Jesus is that still small voice that speaks to us, that life light that guides us as we walk.
Right, the life light to live by.
That's right.
Yeah. So John was kind of just telling everybody where to look.
Yeah.
And who to believe in. And he's saying to believe in this life light.
And I imagine he would have told people to look in their conscience, look in their inner self.
Right.
Because that's where you find the life light.
Yeah, so it's in us.
Mm-hmm.
But now this next part says John was not himself the light, and he was there to show the way to the light. So, and I guess I'm reading this as like John had the light, but he was not the light. So
Correct.
So yeah, because Jesus would be the light, Christ would be the light.
Yep.
And to accept Christ would be to accept the light into your life, and then the darkness would be removed.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so now he says the life light was the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Every person entering life he brings into light.
Mm-hmm.
So what does he mean? The life light was the real thing.
This is what all the religions were looking for. This is what all the people were looking for. This is eternal life. This is what we were looking for. You know, it's the what is that pool of youth? You know,
The spring or
the spring of youth,
or something.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, that everyone's looking for. This magic
Fountain
of youth. Yeah,
There we go.
it's this reward that we're all looking for and trying to find this purpose and meaning in life.
Mm.
You know, and the light life was the real thing. That relationship within your conscience to God, that was the real thing.
Mm. Right, and not to, I think a lot of times we think that it's in the future. We're looking for the life light in the future.
Yeah, but it's right now.
But it's now, yeah. So he says that he was in the world. The world was there through him. And yet the world didn't even notice him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's right there, but we don't even pay attention.
We're not looking inside to find the answer. We're looking outside. We're looking for someone to show us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we couldn't accept that.
We couldn't accept that it was as simple as walking with God in your conscience.
Yeah.
There had to be more to pleasing God. There had to be more to knowing God. There had to be more to this life.
So what does he mean when he says he came to his own people, but they didn't want him?
Israel did not want Jesus. They crucified him.
Right, but this is okay. So he's just kind of recapping. He's kind of doing a summary.
He was born into a Jewish lineage, and those people didn't want him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. So, I guess whoever did want him, who believed he was who he claimed, and would do what he said, he made to be their true selves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's kind of an odd statement, isn't it? I mean, he made them to be their true selves.
Yeah. When you recognize that the access to the presence of God is found within yourself, and you begin walking with God in yourself, you become your true self.
Right.
You're not putting on a show for anybody.
Yeah, and he made to be their true selves, which is child of God. Their child of God selves.
Yep.
So, I mean, we're just walking around not knowing who we are.
Exactly. We have no idea who we are. Yep.
Yeah, we needed to be shown that. We couldn't figure it out.
We couldn't figure that out.
We don't know who I is or...
That's right.
What... Like, who are you? So...
Yeah, like really, who are you? What are you?
Yeah. What does it mean to be you? What does it mean to be Matt?
Yeah.
And it obviously means to be a child of God. But what happens if we don't? You know what?
Well, we carry on in the darkness. He said, while you were dead in your trespasses and sins in which you formerly walked, in Ephesians. That's what Paul says. And we spent this time in the darkness, in death, not accessing the light, the life light. We were walking in the dead of darkness, even though the light was in us and through us and sustaining us and holding us. We ignored that and we looked somewhere else to find it.
And that's what it means to be, once we know who we are, that's what it means to be God begotten.
Mm-hmm. Because that's who you are.
So according to the next part, he says, not blood begotten, not flesh begotten, not sex begotten.
Mm-hmm.
That is who we believe.
That is our body.
Yeah.
All of those things are our body. That is not who we are.
Yeah.
We were a person, and we entered into life. Every person entering life, he brings into light. So we entered this world, life, and the life was the light, right? He brought us into light, into that relationship with him. We knew that when we were children, and we forgot.
Yeah, so then we forget that we also have a spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're not only blood and flesh and bone.
Yeah.
And then forgetting that is forgetting what life is really about,
That's right.
and really knowing that you are a child of the living God, not just not another animal to.
Correct.
Not just not unimportant in this world. So right after that section, he says the Word became flesh and blood. Mm-hmm. So he says that the God begotten, not blood begotten, not flesh begotten, not sex begotten. Then he says the Word became this flesh and blood.
So the Word is that Christ that dwells in us, that made us, that spiritual being. And we all lost connection. Not all of us, obviously, because John had that connection.
Mm-hmm.
So there's people throughout history who had that connection with it. And that's why he said those who would receive him, right, they walked with God, like the prophets and like various people throughout the scriptures we see walking with God. But that God that they were walking with, that Spirit, that Christ that they were walking with, actually took on a body to show all of us how simple it was. He became flesh to walk among us.
Yeah, and he moved into the neighborhood.
And he moved into the neighborhood.
I love that part. Just that he says the neighborhood. It makes me think of Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
But so we saw the glory with our own eyes, the one-of-a-kind glory, like Father, like Son. So we saw, in seeing the Son, we could see the Father, and we could see who we truly are sons of.
That's right, who we were made to be in the image of and after the likeness of.
Yeah. And generous inside and out, true from start to finish.
Which not only is who Jesus is, it's who you are in your true child of God state of mind.
Yeah, we are joint heirs.
Yep.
And true from, so, when he says true from start to finish, it makes me think of a lot of times we are not truly being who we, like to other people, we're not truly being who we are.
That's right.
Like we'll put on a facade of who we think people want to see us, who we think they want us to be, and not truly be who we are.
Yeah.
And we should just be true.
We should
true
just be
to
true.
ourselves.
Yep. I would agree.
Now John pointed him out and called, "This is the one I told you was coming after me, but in fact was ahead of me. He has always been ahead of me. He has always had the first word." So, I mean, he's talking about how essentially the word was from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I would like to bring in the still small voice. That's how I refer to God, as the still small voice, the one who talks with me and walks with me. And I can relate with John, the word was before me. He always got the first word. He always sought me first. And then I respond. And John was showing us how to walk with that word. And he knew that word was going to become flesh. And he was telling people, hey, there's one who's coming after me. And this was John's cousin. It was Jesus.
Yeah.
And he was born like 6 months after John. And John says, there's one coming after me who was before me. And he was talking about Jesus, his cousin.
So we all live off his generous abundance, gift after gift after gift.
Mm-hmm.
We got the basics from Moses, and then this exuberant giving and receiving. This endless knowing and understanding. All this came through Jesus the Messiah.
So imagine for a moment thinking you had to look for God and all these other things, but yet we live off his generous bounty, gift after gift after gift. Look at all the gifts we have in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all the blessings. Those are all from God. Every good and perfect gift comes down from the Father in heaven, or the Father above. That's in James. And we all live off of his bounty. And we got the basics from Moses. In other words, Moses kind of laid out what this was supposed to be like. And then, so after Moses, the basics. And then this exuberant giving and receiving. Giving and receiving. This endless knowing and understanding. All this came through Jesus, the Messiah. When you connect with the life light and you talk with God one-on-one, and God talks to you one-on-one, there's all kinds of giving and receiving. You talk with God, God talks with you, he guides and directs you, and you have a relationship. And then there's this knowing and understanding. It's like God opens up our eyes, our spiritual eyes, to see reality the way it really is, not the way we've thought it was, but the way it really is. And all this came through Jesus, the Messiah, the Word.
Yeah, I agree with that. What Jesus brought was a knowledge of, and knowing and understanding of who God really is.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, for generations before, people saw God as you'd have to do something to please him, to appease him, to make him happy, and that was the way to have life, was to make this deity happy. But he's already happy with you. He already accepts you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jesus came to show that you are accepted. You are just like you are a son to him. You are a daughter to him. You are part of God's family.
Yeah.
So, and now to end this off, he says, no one has ever seen God, not so much as a glimpse. This one-of-a-kind God expression, who exists at the very heart of the Father, has made him plain as day. Which is what I was just saying. Essentially, we now know who God is through Christ, through Jesus, who walked and showed us who God is and who we are.
And who still walks with us and who still shows us, while not in the body, in the Spirit. God is a spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And here we have the Word of God dwelling in the Father's heart, walking with us. I was just talking with Jesus on the way here, and I was like, everyone's looking for your return. Where are you right now? He says, I'm right here. Right? Yeah. I'm right here. He's always with us. He's never left us. If you want to find Jesus, you just gotta look within and talk with Jesus. Talk with the Word of God. Talk with the still small voice. Yep. Yeah. And that same Jesus walked among us and showed us how simple this life is. Yeah.
Yeah, and we just, he said that, was it back in earlier in the verse, it said that we didn't know, or what was it saying? That we didn't know who we were? I don't think I'm quite saying that right, but essentially we didn't know who we were, and we didn't know really who God was.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus had to come to show us both of those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. He's already here. Like, why are we looking to the future for him to come back?
He even said, I will not leave you as orphans.
Hmm.
You know? Yep.
Well, good start to this passage here.
To this book.
Yeah, to the Gospel of John. Any other thoughts before we wrap this up? Are we gonna do the whole rest of the? It's pretty.
No. We'll just take it in sections.
Yeah.
We'll go with the message, and we'll take it for the sections that the message gives us, so we can get the context.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And our listeners will know what to expect.
Yeah.
Coming up. All right. Well, we do appreciate you listening this week, and we hope you got something out of it. And if you did like this episode, go ahead and give it a like on the podcast platform you're listening. And if you want to keep hearing more of these podcasts in the future, I suggest you subscribe, and then we can see you next week. Take care.
Bye now.